Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we continue with the Ghazghkull Thraka 40 Facts. So let's get into 40 Facts about Ghazghkull Thraka. Ghazghkull was the new owner of a vast armada, but like all orc-made creations, the ships that made up the fleet were built out of cast-off metal scavenged from the ends of the galaxy. Others had once been vessels of some other race, but had been salvaged and upgraded by the orcs. It was not the greenskin way to repair things. They would merely patch over shells and add more dakka to the ships. Some had even come from distant eras, having been found drifting in the warp. Within the ramshackle armada was a pair of heavy-powered hammer battle cruisers that had stood head-to-head with Imperial battleships and come out victorious. Some half-dozen kill cruisers and terror ships rounded out the larger void ships. Before them came a tide of lesser vessels, some little more than rust buckets with thruster engines, yet they were deadly despite their worn and crappy appearance. The pride of the fleet was Urgok's Spacehawk, a colossal of a starcraft, with firepower to almost equal that of any entire Imperial battle fleet. Urgok's fleet was substantial in size before Ghazghkull arrived, but it grew exponentially when the prophet of Gork and Mork took over. Warlord Urgok's empire had grown so large that it took solar weeks for Ghazghkull to work his way around. Most joined the prophet of Gork and Mork willingly, but some stubborn cases needed to be shown a few messy examples before they too saw the wisdom of aligning themselves with Ghazghkull. When he regained consciousness, Urgok the Slayer himself became a leader within Ghazghkull's throng, and this made recruiting the rest of the armies easier. If the galaxy was going to be set ablaze with Wa energy, many more orcs were needed. It would be the work of 1,000,000 lifetimes to seek out every greenskin-held territory, to travel to innumerable places where greenskins gathered in dominating numbers. Countless moons, planets, asteroid fields, or spacehawks drifting in the void between the stars. Ghazghkull knew orcs were called by the power of Wa. He would not go searching for the boys would come to him. Under Ghazghkull, a flood of greenskins rushed to join the fleet. He now had to give them purpose. With orc hordes roaring for battle, Ghazghkull steered the fleet toward the orc territory of Octarius. Rumor had come of a new leader of the realm, and it was Ghazghkull's intent to wrestle the title of Overfiend of Octarius for himself. However, what he found when he got there was even better. Octarius had been orc territory for many thousands of standard years. It was not as backwater as subsector as Urk had been, and every so often a leader would rise up and call a Wa, and lead an invasion off to wreck some part of the galaxy. The old warlord Gorsnik Magash, whom held the title of Overfiend of Octarius, left to join Ghazghkull in Armageddon long ago. He was still fighting the Imperium, holding his own in the Deadlands of Armageddon after the prophet had left. Since Gorsnik's departure, a new leader quickly rose to fill the power vacuum and claim the title Overfiend of Octarius, a Deathskull warlord named Zog Steeltooth. Despite his copious use of blue war paint, the rule of Zog Steeltooth had thus far not been a lucky one. Tyranids plagued the sector, consuming entire planets as they advanced. The epicenter of the fighting was upon the planet of Octoria. The ever-evolving spawn of High Fleet Leviathan were gaining the upper hand, showering the planet with reinforcements, sending yet further broods of killing beasts into the non-stop melee. Across Octoria, the orcs were forced to take refuge in scrap iron fortifications. It seemed only a matter of time before the Tyranids collapsed each of the jury-rigged fortresses. Then Ghazghkull descended from the spore-ridden skies. At first, the Overfiend's orcs thought the rocks blazing through the atmosphere were some kind of new foe. All across Octoria they landed, smashing gaping holes through the gargoyle-filled skies, and plummeting into scuttling hordes on the ground. Ghazghkull's boys surged outward, taking the fight to the Tyranids while the rocks themselves opened up with heavy fire. The greenskins behind their shabby defenses let loose volleys of cheers and hails of supporting fire of their own. Tyranid response was extremely quick. Large swarm creatures, hulking-limbed horrors, and gargant-sized beasts lumbered to oppose the new greenskin threat from the skies. Octoria's orcs were silenced by these new Tyranid creatures, for they knew that these towering behemoths had been held in reserve. Now the newcomers would be shredded, for there could be no hope for infantry out in the open. To their surprise, the air flashed as teleporters began to bring more reinforcements. All across Octoria, the crated rocks landing sites now blazed with unnatural lights. After each flash, more and more mobs appeared, and these were not just infantry. Arriving with gunfire, Gargants and Stampas concentrated their fire on the larger foes, while at their feet, Burnaboy mobs spread out. With each blast from their weapon, they sent blossoms of red fire leaping out to flash fry the lesser creatures in droves. Amidst the mob pouring forth, countless crude banners and totems could be seen, carrying high the newly arrived troops or mounted atop clanging battle wagons. The orcs of Octoria saw the symbol and knew who had arrived. At Gargates, the Overfiend's shanty capital, Ghazghkull Thraka himself appeared via teleporter. He led the charge at the head of his bully boys as they crashed through the serpentine raveners that were beginning to undermine the first line of defense. To the greenskins that watched, this massive warlord in mega armor fought like Gork himself. He wove in and out of sight in swirling carnage, but he was easy to pick out. An aura of green brutality seemed to surround him, and he clobbered each of his foes so hard that limbs, heads, claws, and flesh arced all around him. He moved like some elemental destructive force, a one-orc wave of destruction. His custom shooter spat death, and with every swipe, Ghazghkull's power claw sliced multiple foes in half. Every motion, from his elbow backswinging to the stomp of his iron foot. The Tyranids were in trouble. Suddenly the ground underneath Ghazghkull began to bulge upward, and in a second, a Moloch larger than any Tyranid seen by the orcs devoured Ghazghkull. The screeching that bursted through the beast-scaping maw made orcs miles away fall and cover their ears, but as quickly as the Moloch screamed victoriously, it began to heave and flop. An unnatural bulge formed in its midsection, and out thrusted a power claw. Shoot a blast widened the hole, and out stepped Ghazghkull, striding out of the belly of the beast. The mightiest of orc warlords roared his victory to the skies, a rally cry to greenskins and a challenge to all else that lived. After that, nothing could stop the orcs. Chanting their warlord's name, the greenskin of Ghazghkull went on a killing rampage, hacking, shooting, and slaying in the berserker frenzy. From behind scrap iron walls, the orcs of Octoria bursted forth to join in. Even Zog Steeltooth, the Overfiend of Octorius, was chanting the name of Ghazghkull as he gunned down the living walls of Tyranids that attempted to stay the greenskin onslaught. Though Ghazghkull had little time to prepare, he made the most of it. Mechs welded iron-plated walls back into position, or patched acid-eaten holes. Others sighted new cannons and anti-aircraft weapons, better integrating the rocks into the overall defense. Under the keen eye of the great big mech Orchimedes, a few snazzy upgrades from the teleporter pads to pulse rockets would give the intergalactic aliens something new to chew on. To the orcs, this fight looked to be bigger and better than the one in Armageddon. Looking up, Ghazghkull twisted his fang-like teeth in as close to a grin as he could manage. This was only getting started. The great butchery began, and it would not stop until Octoria was free of the creatures of the Leviathan. Since leaving Armageddon, the visions that temporarily filled Ghazghkull's brain had become more frequent. They showed him brief snippets of the action back in Armageddon. Ghazghkull saw Zagboss, Skargrim tearing it up on his warbike, or watched Commando Clank lead his boys to another victory. Despite the vast distance, Ghazghkull swore his voice carried through the visions and reached his lieutenants, and he was correct. Ghazghkull orders were reaching Armageddon in the form of a tormented vision. And those were 40 facts about the legendary Ghazghkull. This is the point where I was reading it and I thought to myself, I need to pick up a Ghazghkull model because this guy is a beast. He's basically orchestrating a battle in Armageddon through powers given to him by Gork and Mork, and now he's fighting the vicious Tyranid swarms. A never-ending battle. This guy is awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, this is only part 7, I believe, or 8. There's going to be more. Please subscribe to the channel for more awesome Warhammer 40k videos, and thank you so much for watching. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.